at giving a month holiday to every Gardner Electric residential customer. This versus only the all-electric residential customer. This option carries less financial impact than the 4-year implementation for all-electric customers. It would be probably the easiest to put into effect because we would literally cancel rebill every citizen based on our computer software. They would just go in, undo March, rebill it all at a 0 cents per kilowatt hour for our residents. And so I think this was brought up too because you guys made the decision before the governor ordered it that we waive all late fees, shut off fees, work with our customers during this time. And I will tell you, the customers have been so grateful for that. And the idea that we're not coming to shut them off, that the panic is out there, and how long they're going to be home, they don't know. And so they were grateful over the disconnect and the extension to pay. And so this was brought to us. So we looked at the actual March numbers. We waited until we billed. I pushed billing to get bills out earlier so I could see what the numbers truly look like. It does come to approximately $733,573 if you were to go in and cancel out all of the electric charges to our residential customers that are on the city's electric system. That includes your service charge, power cost, adjustment, and consumption charges. And so of that, the all-electric residential would be $207,367, and your non-electric heat customers would be $526,206. And option 8, the last option was we also looked at the partial holiday to our commercial customers who have also been impacted by what's going on. And so we looked at assisting them up to 5,000 kilowatt hours. So looking at offering them a one-time March, everything up to 5,000 kilowatts hour would be billed at 0. Anything over 5,000 would be on their rate structure. They would have to pay their demand charges, service charges, and PCA is what the number reflects. And so that amount comes to $56,828. And that is actuals based on what we billed. And I did go ahead and include what that looked like, what type of customer that is. And so for our all-electric small customer, even though we don't have an all-electric, we still manually, I can't say we manually track it, but we classify them. So we know who's still all-electric and who's electric. And so that savings to them would be $2,276.49. That would be shared between 12 customers. Medium all-electric is $2,257.50 between 7 customers. And large all-electric is 1, and that saving would be $270. And then our small electric customers was the majority of who would see the benefit of this, would be a total of $36,214.09. Medium electric would be $14,190, and large electric would be $1,620. And so I know we've already approved options to mitigate the impact of the new rate structures to all electric, which the removal of late fees was done, and that was for their January, February, and March billings. Approval to the budget billing program. which we have had a large number of customers sign up for that. I believe we had 8 the first week, and I just mailed out 12 new documentations for people to fill out and send in who really didn't want to do it online. So we're bridging that gap of electronics with some customers. So that has been a widespread where people are interested in doing that. Payment plans. Right now, customers, since we are not open to the public, we are asking them to wait, to go ahead and pay as they can, and then as soon as we open our doors back in, to come in and sit down with us to come up with a payment plan that works for them. And mostly just because to see how it goes, to see if they see the savings when their bills go down, because we did see a big reduction in March. And so to be able to work with them and know how far out we are. And so most of them are willing to do that instead of putting something in writing over the computer right now. That way we can look at their bills and get that plan going. Once we are open back for business, I have said that what we will do is send out a notice. People are really concerned about, since we're not doing disconnects, that we're not sending out delinquent notices, and they're afraid we're just going to show up and disconnect. We are not doing that. We will send out a notice giving them a certain period to come in and see us by to avoid disconnect. So that is the plan. So I feel like that is something you guys would support. So I'm just saying that for the record, I guess. So once we get our doors open, come in and see us, and we'll get that all worked out. The energy assessment, we did get a response from 5 agencies. I have not had anyone sign up for that yet, but I will be honest, I've been really busy and not pushed that a lot, got it out there publicly. So, but I will, because I think it's an awesome advantage, even because it's not only needed for all electric customers. I think any customer could benefit from it. And some of them were offering free in-home and commercial business as well. So we will do a better job of getting that out. It's just been kind of crazy. So anyway, so thank you for those approved options already. I do feel like we've gotten a great response from those. So we have a suggested motion, which is to authorize the city administrator to execute one or a combination of options 1, 2, 7, and or 8, or adopt an ordinance repealing or amending ordinance 2597, an ordinance revising Title 13 Utilities, Chapter 13.25 Electric Rates of the Gardner Municipal Code. And so,
thank you, Amy, and thanks again to our technical staff, Charles Smith, for getting us back on, going through the technical problems and getting our live stream back on. Thanks again. I'm going to open this up to public comments, but before I do that, I'm going to read 3 letters into the record that we received for public comment, because we had actually solicited people in the community, knowing that we were going to be limited on space because of social distancing, to send their comments in. So I'm going to start. I'm going to read the name and address and then read their letters verbatim. All right, this one's from Judith Rogers, 834 Juniper Terrace, Gardner, Kansas. It goes, I believe citizens who can document that they are receiving unemployment benefits at this time, then they should be able to waive payment of their utility bills for several months, especially considering the large reserve we have now. Please forward this memo to the mayor, city council members, and city administrators. So that's the first one. The second one is from Michael Cruller, 18413 Sycamore Court, Gardner, Kansas. And he writes, I am begging that our city council members not raise the city of Gardner current electrical rates for single-family households in the city of Gardner. I realize that we are a growing community, but increasing costs for water, private haul, trash pickup, Gardner disposal, and increasing taxes are making it more and more difficult for all of us who are retired and on fixed incomes to maintain our homes and lives in Gardner. Please consider us when you make decisions regarding increasing any city service rates. The last one is from Christopher Wagner, 1199 East Santa Fe, Lot 100. Okay, so I got y'all's letter in mail kind of late after the fact. My bills dramatically doubled, or I live in Conestoga. I am all electric. I am a single dad, 1 child. I make too much to get assistance, and I unplugged every non-essential in my home. Changed most of my lights to LED, but we're still going from 150 to 200 to 336, 338. I'm assuming that's kilowatt hours. It's crazy. So the people that your letter stated in home energy management at no cost, how are they supposed to help me? I looked into solar, but since I'm in a mobile home, I don't qualify. It really stinks. I'm struggling even worse. So those are the 3 letters I got from the public that I read into the record. With that being said, if there's anyone else who wishes to make public comment, please come forward. State your name and address for the record. Understand we have a 5-minute time limit. No profanity, no personal attacks. With that, the podium is now open.
There should be like rose petals.
You're pushing it, Casey.
I know. Casey Deaton, 533 North Wynwood. First off, thank you so much to Amy for all those different options. I can't imagine how much work she has done in the last 2 to 3 months pulling these reports together, and all the information, all these meetings that I've attended has just been amazing. So awesome staff here. I know I emailed you guys this week. I just wanted to make sure that I was heard here at the meeting as well. You know, and like I said in my email, not trying to sound heartless, I know that a large surprise bill for any household is unwelcome. I actually got that just after Christmas with some cheap smart bulbs that we got. And, you know, that's one of the things that my family has to take into consideration is our own conservation. As soon as we saw that our bill doubled, what did we do? We went around, what changed? What can we fix? And we are unplugging things. We took away the smart light bulbs that we just got for Christmas, things like that. We budget for our electric bill, and the issue is I don't budget for somebody else's electric bill. To take money from all citizens to give to a few just didn't sit right with me. I love that we're offering payment plans, interest-free, even without this pandemic. Before all that started, I know that was something that you guys were offering. But to change rates, to have the city lose so much money, especially in a pandemic like this, when everybody is struggling, everybody is worried about keeping their light bills on, I just want to make sure that we're not taking tax dollars from everybody to just help a couple people. Thank you.
Thank you, Casey. Thank you, Casey. Anyone else wish to make public comment? Seeing none, I'm going to open the floor, the dais, for questions of Amy or Matt Wolf, our finance directors here, just to provide some clarification, especially on some budget numbers. So I will start on my far right with Mr. Baldwin. He's the authority on these subsidies issues.
A lot to go over, but I'm going to wait for everybody else to have their piece. But I did want to ask one question. Mm-hmm. What exactly are we trying to solve here? Because that was a lot of options that affect a lot of people in a lot of different ways.
Correct.
So what exactly are we solving here?
I believe we're trying to fulfill the mission of our electric utility, which is to serve the citizens of our community. That is the number one consideration that I have on this. So the late options 7 and 8 were thought of with that in mind.
So the goal is, though, to help as many as possible.
Yes.
Those that are hurting the most. What should
Both those that are hurting the most and those in the rest of our community, because everybody right now is struggling. We are a blue-collar community, and a lot of people have lost their jobs, and they're not going to get a check for a while. Okay. So that's why. Like
I said, I've got more comments, but
okay, that was a fair question.
For a while.
No, fair question. Councilman Gorsuch.
I'll pass for right now.
Nobody wants to speak first. Okay.
I'll speak.
Council President Winters.
Right. So as we were getting these options and getting the emails, I was kind of thinking along the lines of something along options 7 and 8. I wasn't sure the ramifications of that, and so we were given this information. They were actually able to put some numbers to it, and part of the problem I have with some of the other ones, like Ms. Deaton mentioned, was I don't want to single out a certain group and help them, and at the same time we're possibly taking money from the other citizens, and so that was always my catch with that. At the same time, I understood where they were coming from. If we look at option 7 and 8, it's unusual. It's certainly not. I don't know that's ever been done, but I think we're kind of in a unique position at the same time in this area, in the country, really. I mean, we own our own utility. We have an excess of reserves. It's a unusual situation that we're in right now. As Mark's probably going to say, we're going to be kicking some of that money down the line, kicking the can down the line. But I think this is a chance for the city to really make a huge gesture. Obviously, there's a lot of people right now that don't have income. They're worried about paying a lot of bills, and I think this is a unique situation that we can make an immediate difference in what they're doing. It applies across the board to everyone. I mean, obviously different rates, but I think this would be obviously well received in the community, but I think even statewide, national-wide, I mean, this might be something that really puts a lot of good karma out for the city itself. Really looks well. And I think it's a great way we could help our residents. Again, I know it's a lot of money, but it's a one-time thing also. And I personally, I think I like option 7 and I like option 8 as well, because I think we should be looking out for the business customers as well. So that's where I stand.
Okay, thanks, Todd. Tori, Tori, what?
I don't know if I have a question about it or not, but
Tori Roberts.
there's the microphone, but I agree with Todd Winters. I like 7 and 8. I think it is a unique situation, but it's a unique situation we're going through. I mean, sometimes you have to get outside the box, and I think, I know that'll hit our budget, I know that'll hit our reserves, but I think it'll go a long way, because people are struggling out there, and people are very worried about everything, and I agree I like 7 and 8. I know that we'll have to figure out how we're gonna pay for things in the budget later on, but I think it goes a long way.
I'm gonna stop you there. We were talking about budgets. We're talking about the electric fund. Finance Director Wolf, I wanted to kind of pull you in on this one, because this is probably where we need to address this. What's the direct budgetary impact on this, other than the approximately $800,000 that we're looking at here for 7 and 8?
Okay, just to remind council, basically we ended 2019 in the electric fund with about a $12.3 million fund balance, and also another 3.1 in electric CIP reserve.
Which we're not touching. We're not
No, we're not
that
going to
at
touch
all.
that.
We cannot.
So we have a really still robust, about an 80% fund balance in just the electric fund. So it's not going to impact the immediate budget if you make this decision. What it does is the rate structure is based on, eventually we're trying to hold rates at as stable as possible. And over year after year, costs will go up. So eventually you'll be running at basically a deficit in operations and eating into your fund balance. So what this means, and we know at some point theoretically we would have to raise rates to counteract that future deficit, but what this could mean is maybe moving that year up a year, since we're eating to a fund balance a little bit earlier.
And that's assuming, again, we did those projections based on 3% increase in expenses.
Correct.
On an annualized basis, and a 1% increase in revenues year over year.
Yes. So if the city continues to grow and we get more electric customers, maybe we won't have to increase earlier.
Okay.
And when I say earlier, I mean we're talking like at least 4 or 5 years out.
5 years out, yeah. Okay. So all in all, a one-time hit. This will be a hit. Obviously, it's not. And again, I keep people say, well, we're going to give money back to people. We're not giving money back to people. What we're doing is we're foregoing revenue. So we keep people's money in their pockets for a month. And that's what we're talking about here, so that they can pay other bills. So, anything else, Tori?
No, I just, like I said, I agree with Todd, I like 7 and 8, and I like the feedback from that.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Council Vice
I'm just
President.
trying to decide who I'm gonna upset, so.
Oh, you'll upset somebody, Rich, you always do, so just have at
At
it.
least I know my place, so. I really don't have too much. I mean, we're kind of in a quandary.
Well, I think nationally, we're kind of in a quandary.
I'm not worried about national, I'm worried about Gardner.
Well, Gardner, we're all in a quandary.
So,
Every citizen in our community is in a quandary. So,
you can go back to Mark, I guess.
I don't know, all right.
My turn?
Councilmember Vasquez. Yes, please.
Okay, I wanted to hit two things real quick that are tied to this, but indirectly. So, the CAF wasn't out before the window closed for public comments. I think anytime we have a special meeting, the CAF should be attached when the agenda goes out for the public, so that they know what we're voting on or potentially voting on. Okay, if it's a work session, we're not taking action, they can't see it, we're not voting on anything in particular, so, oh well. But because this is a regular business meeting in the sense that it's just not scheduled on the first and the third Monday, I think we want that CAF out, particularly in this case when they can't come in. So, maybe somebody else would have wrote in and said, hey, I like choice 6. I hate 13, whatever. Okay?
And can I just say real quick that I actually held it up, and I asked them because we were trying to get all the billing out, and so we do 2 different types of billing. We do normal cycle billing, and then we do what's called off cycle. So anything out of the ordinary gets kicked into exceptions, and then we have to look at it. And so I told them, okay, yeah, I can have it because we'll push billing through. Well, because there's been such a differential, literally every one of our big commercial customers, and there was over $300,000 in exception billing this month. And so none of that was included. So when I looked at the numbers, I'm like, oh, there's no way we cut back that much. And so I actually asked staff, because we're running 50% of staff, half here, half not, to hurry up and get that $300,000 worth of billing processed. So we didn't have that number until late on Friday. And so that is why. So then I worked all weekend to get the final numbers. So I do apologize. That was me asking them not to ship that out.
It's not a criticism on staff. This is just a, I think, going forward thing.
Okay.
That's normally how we would do things.
The other thing is the website is still misleading in the sense that it says everybody gets the 2%, which it does not indicate that there's ever a time that some people, like All Electric, would not get a 2%. So if you go to the utility billing page, then when you scroll down halfway or so, it talks about the rates, and it says that all electric customers will be getting a 2% discount. And I think if somebody is looking into this, like we have been talking about, they still might have been confused. Okay, so to these 8. So I dislike 1, 2, 3, 4, and 6.
Oh, we knocked that out.
Because they're not equitable. If you're talking about all electric, you automatically are not talking about residential electrical or commercial. So, you're essentially picking a group to get some sort of special treatment. 7 and 8 are similar if you do just 7 or just 8. Because if you do 7, you left out the commercial. If you do 8, you left out the residential. If you do 8 as written, you only give them a partial. Well, we gave everybody in 7 a full holiday. Why not the full holiday? Why not residential partial? Number 5 is, in my opinion, essentially just being irresponsible on our part. That's not following our plan, our guidance, taking any of the information from our consultant. That essentially, by the time that gets rolled in, if you roll it all back and phase it in, you've essentially null and voided that entire rate study and implementation. Why even do it? Why'd we spend that money? So, as far as 7 and 8, which seems to be the most talk, first question is for Amy. How many people aren't caught up for January and February, i.e. they needed more time to pay, that are all electric?
I would say because we had done payment plans prior to us shutting our doors March 16th, I would say out of the 1,300, I would say we probably have at least 200 payment plans in place that are considered longer term than 1 month.
Okay, so we're looking at about 200 people here. Not people, customers. Okay, so 7 and 8, if you do a full or you do a partial, that's also arbitrary. I mean, we're picking March. Why not January? Why not an average of your last 12 months? Why not February? Why not the increase? It's just an arbitrary number. I understand that from a billing perspective, got no problem there. But I mean, you could have also just said 10% of a number. You could have said, how about everybody gets $100? How about 1,200 like the federal government? I mean, just pick a number randomly like they did. The key is the rates needed to change. The consultant told us what to do. They still need to change. We delayed the implementation by a year for this reason. So the rollout would be good. Communication could have been better. We've all acknowledged that. So we put in the slide of mitigation to help those that got hit with the big bill. Nobody wants to get hit with a big bill. If I got hit with that big bill, I'd be like, what happened? And I'd call. Absolutely. And nobody wants that, and that wasn't great on our part. But that's what all those mitigation things on that slide are available for, is to make up for that. So the other thing is, we voted on this in January of 2019. So let's say instead of a year, we just had a 6-month delay, and we implemented it in August of 2019. And we had perfect communication. Will we even be talking about this right now? The bills for winter wouldn't have come through yet. Here we are with this pandemic, and I don't think the answer is that we would be. And even if we are we going to talk about the same thing in July or August when the water rates go up? And we're deep in the middle of the pandemic, and people have been out of a job for 3 months? So I now have a question for the mayor.
Yes.
What is the Gardner Samaritan Project doing? Because if we're going to basically be talking about gifting money to a small percentage or the entire population, sure sounds like a charity and not government. So what is the Samaritan Project doing right now?
Actually, I see this as giving, well, you've been talking for many years about the fact that this city has overcharged customers. And that's the reason why we had such a large fund balance. Am I not correct in that?
I wouldn't say I was horribly vocal about it, but
No,
I've
said
brought it up,
quite a few times. But every time that someone's talked about doing anything with the electric fund, you've said that money is there because we overcharged customers
correct.
for many years.
Yes.
All right? And your approach consistently has been either we do something with the money that is directly related to electric, or we give that money back.
Correct.
All right? I'm kind of going in that second option right now. And we have a reason to today, because there are people in this community that are not going to be getting a check regardless of what happens. The federal government doesn't exactly run fast, okay? You're talking about those $1,200 checks for adults and $500 for children under 17. We understand that that's coming when we don't know, because that's not how, the government doesn't exactly run those checks fast. We have people in this community that are hurting right now. They're hurting, with obviously jobs, with bills that are coming in, with mortgages and rent payments, especially rent payments. Okay, so that's why 7 and 8 makes some sense. 7 and 8. I'm not talking about 7 or 8. You're absolutely right, Mark. I don't think that 7 and 7 in isolation or 8 in isolation is at all fair. But this is an equitable way to utilize some of that surplus that we have, some of that reserve, not really surplus, but it's a reserve, to be able to give back to the folks in this community and we're not even giving it back. What we're doing is we're just foregoing that revenue for a month. That's what we're talking about here. And the reason why March is very simple. We don't have to run, it's 8,000 adjusted bills. That's a pain in the rear end. Better do it now and just forego the revenue for March than to have to go back and rebill February. It makes for a ton of work for our staff. And so that's what, and from the standpoint of Gardner Samaritan Project, to be perfectly honest with you, we don't have millions of dollars in the Gardner Samaritan Project to be able to, directly assist people with cash payments. I will say this, we do have multiple millions of dollars that has been, as you said in the past, overcharged of the customer base. This is a way that we can help our existing customers, our existing citizens right now through what is a tough patch until the federal checks can start to ease some of the burden. That's why we're doing it like this.
Okay, so as far as that we've overcharged and we need to repay everyone, that's true. But that's why the rate study looks at it and says, what are you gonna do with this money? And eventually we run into a deficit.
Yep, I understand that. And
So
we've discussed it.
this is essentially a whim. You can say it's because of the pandemic or because we didn't have good communication, but it's a whim of this body at this moment. The next body could do, oh, heck, we should do that too. There's still $10 million in there. How about $3 million? Okay, this is a whim. And as far as giving it back, you are giving it back. Because whether or not you get a credit on your account, that's the same thing as somebody handing you the money and you hand it back. It's a give back.
It doesn't matter.
Okay, so sure it does. Because this money, if let's say you go with 7 and you make 8 be all commercial customers, you give everybody a holiday 100%. You will have to pay that money back in the future.
Yes.
And not only will it be an increase, it will change the rates later, but
4 or 5 years
it
down
could
the road.
be worse for the all-electric people based off the slide from Gons for 18 and 19's actual numbers.
Well, that's why we work with them on usage, Mark. I mean, this all comes back to usage.
Some things you cannot fix in a trailer home, Steve.
That is
There's only
correct.
so much improvement you can have on a thin-walled building. Okay, they are still going to have difficulty reducing that usage by a significant portion.
You're correct. I just read a letter from somebody who said just that.
So how is this then about a usage improvement? If it's not really going to do much good for very many people,
What
and
is-
nobody's even taken themselves avail of it yet.
Okay. I get what you're saying. I get what you're saying. So what we need is we need higher end or better constructed housing within this community.
That's a separate discussion.
Separate.
That's completely separate.
You can do a lot better constructed housing in 5 years.
Sure, but that doesn't do anything
in
for the
5
people in
years.
Conestoga in 5 years that are still in
In
their
5
house.
years. Well, okay.
Mayor, I have a question for Matt. If on the commercial, I think the tab says stimulus package for commercial. What- Good choice of words. It's at $254,398. What's 100% of that then? Is it just double that number, or 508,000?
Which one are you looking at?
Which option?
Well,
You're
I'm looking at
the
option 8.
spreadsheets that were sent.
Yeah, I'm looking at the backup spreadsheet.
Well, what you're looking at is if you just get rid of all electric, all
So-
commercial, period.
Yeah, I'm asking about only commercial, and number 8 is a half a holiday, basically. But the cost of that, what's the full cost or the full burden versus option 8?
I'm going to defer to Amy Foster because I believe she has that information in front of her.
It's, so if you were to give commercial a 100% holiday as well, it would be $254,398.
Okay, so that's the full burden, okay.
Yes.
Just short of $1 million for
I
both.
got it.
Now,
Thank you.
the thing about that is that, I believe that the structure for the commercial was to give the greatest benefit to the smallest businesses.
Yeah,
Because they're
that's
the ones
correct.
that are severely being
Yeah,
impacted
but
by
the
the
total,
shutdown.
the impact nonetheless is 254,000.
For all, if you forgive all
Of
the bill.
commercial.
For commercial.
For all
Yes.
commercials,
Yeah.
yes.
And a large majority of that is the small business owners, which keeps our community, our state, our country going. so.
Actually, the large majority of that is larger businesses.
Yes.
The bigger businesses are the ones that are that are paying that electric.
I apologize, you're right.
Yeah.
Yeah, large is at 90,000, medium is at 87, and small is at 59.
Yep.
So if we just pretended that we didn't have any money in the reserve fund, which it's not a reserve because it's been allocated and factored in the rate study. If that bank account is zero, now what?
That's a hypothetical, Mark. We
Sure.
aren't even there.
It is, yeah.
It is.
Well, I think
So is a 1 month holiday. It's hypothetical.
Yeah, I
No,
think
it's
it's a
not.
fair
It's
question.
very
We
real.
just
Until we
wouldn't
vote
have,
on it, it's hypothetical.
yeah, we wouldn't have this conversation, to your point.
Yes, but we're in a
So
position.
what are we gonna
where
do with water then in July, in the exact same situation, except more burden, that does not have a reserve?
Well, for one thing, I think we're gonna communicate better that in July, you need to be planning for a rate increase, but that gives 6 months.
And the rate increase has already gone into effect.
4 months.
It went into effect in January as well. And I do know, so I don't know if any of you have gotten, we actually did a huge conservation campaign. We were hoping to have that in place and done by December, where we hung the knockers on the door with the toilet dye and the keychain. So
got
staff
mine.
actually had some downtime today, so they were hanging notices, and because everyone's home thought they were soliciting, but actually they're soliciting, giving away free stuff for people to find ways to save water.
Do we make them pay for a soliciting thing?
So anyway, so they were somewhat accosted to please not solicit, but ended up taking the materials, and we have found some leaks through that. So we're almost done. I'm hoping by mid-April we'll have every single citizen and business having received our conservation campaign for water. And then wastewater as well. It ties right into that, so that was on the notice as well. So
I didn't hear an answer to my question. I mean, you said we're gonna do a good campaign, okay, that's happened.
Yep.
The reason I say July, I know the rates have already gone into effect, but they're gonna hit after the winter average and people watering their lawn and so forth.
Sure.
Summer is what I should say. So, would any of these options be on the plate then? Are we gonna discuss that then?
I think that we're discussing electric today. I mean,
We could just give a really big electric, since it has a reserve that would offset the water.
no, I don't think that.
Why not 2 million instead of $1 million? Just double it, and then that'll offset the 3.7% for water.
We're talking a one-time, 1 month holiday. We're not talking about 2 and 3 and 4 months here.
I know, $1 million for options 7 and 8 at 100%.
At 100%, just short of $1 million, yes.
Yeah, that's correct.
I mean, I know you're against this, Mark. I mean, it's very clear. I
This is not
also
responsible.
I also feel that, as I said, the number one consideration of having understand this, Mark. I know we want to run the electric utility like a business. We always do. That's the whole key. All right. We also know that in 2014, against my objections, we got rid of the EUB. Okay, and that was not that we brought it within the city. Okay. Do you think right now that KCP&L isn't working with their customers right now?
Do you know what Evergy did?
Whatever you do.
They gave them an equal payment plan and the ability to do budget billing. The payment plan schedule for the next 6 months. That's what they did, which we had already done.
Yes, and they're an investor-owned utility
That's right.
who is beholden to their shareholders. Correct.
And they
Who are-
could
who-
give to charity, not unlike a
No.
government that cannot.
But we're not a government. We're an electric utility.
We are a government-owned utility.
All right. Well, let me finish. Okay. Evergy has shareholders. Shareholders get a direct benefit from the running of their particular utility, either through dividends or through other such
Sure.
stock price appreciations, those kind of things. All right. Who are our shareholders, Mark?
The general fund.
No, the shareholders are the citizens of this community.
No, the dividend of this utility is the general fund because it gets 5% from it. The utility is
I'm
ran
going to-
revenue neutral, so essentially the utility is a
All right.
service that should be making $0. So there are no dividends to the customers
Okay.
other than good service, which we have impeccable service.
We have very good service.
But the actual dividends of dollars would be the 5% that goes to the general fund through the pilot.
Okay. That's a franchise fee that would normally be allocated by an investor-owned utility,
Correct.
all right? Does an investor-owned utility care more about its citizens of our community than we do?
I'm not in charge. I'm not a CEO of an investor-owned utility.
I'm just-
My guess is no.
Okay,
Which is why we have impeccable service versus if you have Evergy or KCPL come down in the middle of the night and it takes them an hour to get here.
so what I'm hearing, Mark, is that you are rescinding what you had said before about paying this back to the citizens.
No, I've already established. That's what the rate study does and why we run into a deficit in the future.
Let me ask our finance director, Matt Wolf, about this. Matt, from the standpoint of projections regarding revenues versus expenses for the current 2-year period versus what was projected in the rate study back in 2017, where are we sitting?
I don't have my my tablet in front of me, so I can't look up that number right now. If I recall, our retail actual sales tax for electric, our retail sales for electric was actually down.
Yes.
But overall, our fund balance was still growing.
Still growing, even though in the rate study we were holding it steady, correct?
Part of that could be due to delayed projects, though.
Potentially, yes.
And potentially because some rate classes are still subsidizing others.
In what way? Oh, you mean last year?
6,700 people were subsidizing 1,300 people or
Last year.
customers. And then you also have the commercial versus residential dynamic. So yes, it's possible for the revenue still to grow even if usage was down potentially.
Yes, and it was.
But if you don't allocate it properly as soon as you can, you're going to continue that divergence, and you're going to have to correct it at some point. Unless we want to kick the can further and
No.
say, well, this is a tough time, it's 2025.
All right. Cost of electric. Is cost of electric the same or lower or higher than it was in the rate study projections? Do we know?
I can't answer that in a second, but I can get at what I think you're trying to get at is essentially it comes down to a policy decision.
Yes.
You have a pretty healthy fund balance right now. Do you want to dip in that early, or do you want to spend it down over time through future deficits? So essentially, if you dip into it now, obviously, when you increase rates will occur sooner than if you don't dip into your fund balance now.
But that's assuming that the projections are correct.
Which is what we
Correct.
pay for studies for and we follow all the time.
Yeah, then why did we assume, everything's based on core assumptions. We talk about modeling, you know this.
I do,
All
indeed.
right, the core assumptions are everything with modeling. Why in the world are we using a 1% revenue increase year over year versus a 3% expenses increase?
Because we're conservative.
Yes.
And we
you know
do
what?
that on
you know what
everything we do
our
in the city.
conservative stance on electric has done for our electric fund over the last 12 years? It's taken it from 3 million to 15 million. So what you're saying is that the projections, the
That's not
conservative
completely true
projections,
because every rate study can readjust that. So part of that is not just the numbers. It is what happens up here.
you're right.
Just like doing something like this.
Absolutely right. And this is a one-time shot.
I'm sure every legislative body says that once in their career.
So you're more worried about the precedent that's might set.
I think this is a horrible precedent, and I think that we're going to come back, and when we have to change the rates in 2 years, 5 years, that we're going to go, oh, man, what would the numbers be if we didn't do that? That's interesting.
We're going to be having to look at the rates again in 5 years anyway, Mark.
2 years.
2 years.
We're almost through the rates. The
Yeah,
rate
which
study.
we have done nothing with, which means
No, we
that
have. We've implemented it.
in the fourth year,
That's
third year, sorry. So there will be an effect to that. By delaying it,
Yep.
there's already going to be enough impact to when they run the new study again, and they say, oh, well, we had these projections, and yes, revenues may have been higher or lower, operating costs may have been higher or lower, and you're going to look at all the numbers again. But all you can do is what you have for that 5-year window, and we have a plan that we are refusing to put into place absolutely as they want it, because we didn't put it in immediately. Then we're talking about changing it, because this isn't in the plan.
You're correct. It's not in the plan. It's unanticipated.
No.
I mean,
this,
a pandemic is unanticipated,
this
Mark.
has nothing to do with the pandemic.
Yes, it does.
No,
I think it does.
no. Electric rates are electric rates governed by this city.
When when half the city in 2 months might not be able to
So
pay
are
them
we
at
gonna
all.
change every fee that we have in this, city? Are we gonna cut all the fees for housing so we can have a housing boom because the economy's depressed?
Actually,
Are we
several
gonna
communities
cut,
have done that.
water and sewer rates while we're at it? Where does it stop? It's a one-time here just because we have some money in an account? No, absolutely not.
Okay, we know where you stand. Thank you,
You
Mark.
do.
All right. Anyone else? Councilman Graversick?
I just go back to the fact that, and I've heard the explanation, and again, just for the record, these are not tax dollars we're talking about. This is a payment for service. But I just go back to the fact that we didn't communicate the ensuing rate change to the all-electric category. That's the premise for this. And I have spoken about the pilot and increase in it, and then I kind of went back and watched the video, and I agree with the feedback that I got. Essentially, I'm in support of number 7 with a slight addendum that all city council members would be removed from this 1 month. I mean, I think it's fair, this 1 month holiday. That's what I'm in favor of. It affects everybody. We don't pick winners and losers. We don't just support the electric fund, all electric homes. It's for everybody in the community. And it is good timing to Councilman Winter's point and Councilwoman Roberts. It aligns with the COVID-19 and everybody's on furloughs, everybody's losing their jobs, their hours are cut way back, their salaries are cut in half. That's where I stand.
Okay.
So, let me see if I understand this right. You want us to vote for everybody but the council getting the break?
Absolutely.
Right, okay, so, that's interesting. I mean, you're really taking this,
Would you do 100% of
Ratepayers.
8 or what's stated?
I wouldn't support 8, just number 7.
So why would we treat our commercial any different from our residential?
Well, because they got the letter and they were able to adjust. Am I correct?
It's my understanding.
Yep.
So our small businesses that are shut down right now wouldn't get a benefit.
well, technically, if they're shut down, they're not.
Yeah, there's
using
no
the
consumption if
They're
shut
saving
down.
right now if they're shut down.
Yeah.
So can I just cut in there real quick? Just to tell you that, so these customers have all billed. So that was the holdup, was because we wanted to have a full month, which is March. So they have all billed. So it's not something that going forward, and the reason for that is because we read everybody right now manually. We're still working on getting those smart meters in the ground, hopefully soon. But so instead of saying, hey, this month's free, use all you want, what we projected is something that's already billed. So we would literally go back, cancel, rebill it, create new bills that show that 0, and then any adjustment to the bill would show up on their next bill in the previous balance. So that way, again, it's not the holiday of, oh, let's turn everything on.
No.
So it has been used, and there would be no, the ones that just shut down, I believe some news came out today on some of them that were closing their doors for the time being. So that impact, it's just gonna make their bills lessen in the future. It wouldn't impact this March number. So
So it's an April billing for a March usage.
it's actually March's usage for
Yeah.
February and part of March's,
Okay.
based on what cycle they were in.
So
So,
they- so most of these-
everybody's already billed.
So most of these we're in business for the duration of the period
Yes.
before COVID.
Correct.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that kind of
Can I,
explains it.
can I ask another question?
Yeah.
I'm still very confused about why the council would be the ones who,
I just don't think we should be a part of legislation that's affecting our pocketbooks.
We're
but you've
citizens
done
of
that
Gardner.
before. I mean, you voted for your boss for $28 million.
My boss for 28 years?
Yeah, you know.
Rich, let's not go there. We're,
But I'm just curious why that all of a sudden.
Just a suggestion.
Okay, all right.
We can chew it up and spit it out, I don't care.
It just seems odd that
well,
we're
rate-
already working harder than most of the citizens on
we're
this
already,
stuff.
We're here to serve.
we're already ratepayers.
So whether you're working hard or not, it's not my,
But again, it's
my
not a,
business.
this is not a tax issue. We're not.
gentlemen, it was just a suggestion.
Yeah,
Okay.
I think it's, to be honest with you, it's a little more than symbolic, and
I like 7, but I also like 8 the way it is as well.
it gives the first 5,000 kilowatt, basically forgoes that because of the fact that that affects primarily small businesses. The
I mean,
ones
you've
that
got
are-
you've got restaurants that are still open, but I'm
Blazers.
sure they're barely making it. I mean,
They are barely
you
making
know,
it.
or having a lot of trouble.
It's tough.
Are all of our,
I spoke to the guys over
caught up for
Customs
January,
there.
February?
What was your question? I'm sorry,
Yes.
Mark.
Are all the
Meryl's
commercial
talking.
customers caught up for January and
Oh,
February?
okay.
As far as I know, yes. I have not seen them on any kind of a notice. I know we did not put any plans for any of them. One of them is holding out, just there, and it's not for that. It is because they wanted to determine if anything was being done to assist them. They are a nonprofit, and so we told them we would do a payment plan with them to do installments over the year if that's what they needed to do. And so they kind of wanted to wait and see.
So that, right now, commercial can't do the payment plan normally. So if we wanted to be as willing to help as we do with residential, we could open that up to the commercial clients for the rest of the year. And they could spread out and have more assistance just like the residential do.
Potentially, yes, but because they're all electric, they're still gonna see some significant usage in the summer. And their rates are increasing regardless.
Their rates will go
Regardless.
down
well,
in the summer.
no,
No,
all
not
electric
commercial.
commercial customers.
Well, I guess it depends on where they were in the classification before.
Yep,
Right, but I will tell you that all commercial residential customers were paying a discounted rate through the summer months too. That was, I believe, like half a cent more than what they were paying in the winter. So what they paid year round wasn't covering even remotely what it was taking to provide them. And so their bills their increase was that high, I believe, and it was discussed a lot in the rate study, just to clarify, was approximately 66% across the board of what they needed to pay, and that's what they went up, was approximately 66%.
increase.
And so, their bills over doubled, and will continue that way for the whole year.
So the payment plan really doesn't have a ton of benefit for them, except
The
it might allow them
budget
to budget
billing,
it better
yeah.
from the standpoint of annual budgets.
Correct.
But it still helps them so they don't have that huge peak.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true.
I like option 9, continue as the plan is currently.
Well, that wouldn't require a vote, would it?
Yeah, we could adjourn.
Okay,
I'll make a motion then.
all right,
Option 7 and option 8
as written.
as written.
Second.
Amended. All right, motion Winters, second Melton, that we authorize the city administrators to execute both options 7 and 8 for rate relief for the month of March's usage, March billing for residents and commercial customers for the city of Gardner, Kansas. Any other discussion?
Yeah, just point of clarification, Matt, what is the total cost for options 7 and 8?
Almost $1 million?
No,
It's like 790,000.
Oh, yeah.
790.
Yeah, it's basically the 733,000 plus the 56,000.
Okay,
So 793. Or 793.
thank you, 793.
793, you're right. Okay. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
Nay.
Motion carries. Thanks, guys. I will entertain a motion to
So
adjourn.
moved.
Second.
Motion Gregorczyk, second
Baldwin.
Baldwin. that we adjourn. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, any abstentions? We are adjourned.
So yeah, you missed me. I had my full mask on and everything.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Ryan or Gons, are you going to be still on the line?
Question, because I knew what the answer was. Are